And thank you all for coming. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you. I feel like working with clay has been such an important healing aspect of my life, and I'll get into that a little bit later. Um, so, so I guess what I want to do today is I heard from Katie what some of you might want to look at. I'm going to do. I have some legs for an animal. I'm not sure what kind of animal. Some big animal over there that I'll is firming up. I have a start of a bust here, and I'm going to hopefully get to. I will get to put the head on, and we'll see the facial features and that whole thing. This I just started to play with texture because I'm sort of captivated right now with shapes and patterns. I have been walking first thing in the morning as the sun comes up, and my sort of what I set out to do was to take 10 photos of things that captivate me that are shapes and patterns. Of course, now I have like 10,000 photos on my phone, or no, actually I have like 40,000 from years past. But so I am sort of during this pandemic time, you know, some of my galleries have closed. Can't do open studios, not really selling. So I'm teaching more online and also exploring, just playing. I'm taking it as an opportunity to take my next step in my art development. I'm doing painting, I'm collaging, I'm trying this new thing, which I really love in clay, which is writing a poem, and it probably comes from after I take a walk, something about nature. I'm really inspired by Mary Oliver. And then after I write some little simple haiku or, you know, 5-line poem, I will just put clay in my hands and just see what happens. Actually, it's become my favorite way of working right now, just to let the clay sort of lead me and tell me where it wants to go. Sometimes it's figurative, sometimes it's just a pair of wings, sometimes it becomes whatever. But I'm just really enjoying that right now. So I think first of all, before I have a little show I want to show you. But before we do that, I want to just finish this little part and then add on to it. And then also I want to add the shoulders on to the bust. So in the meantime, does anybody have any questions or have anything you want to ask at the moment? And you can maybe ask Katie, or you can write it. Oh, I see. Wait. It looks like Holly asked, is this piece leather hard? Is that what you're asking? No, it's pretty soft. It's not leather hard. It's not leather hard. If I mean, I just decided to sort of try all these textures, and it would be hard if it was leather hard. So I kind of want to just get some impressions down here at the bottom before I get high in the piece, so that I won't be able to, because I can push from my hands from the inside. That's the cool thing about the Zoom thing. You can sort of see what I'm doing.
I had a question from Marilyn. She didn't see you attach the tree, and she was wondering if that was slipped and scored on, or the leaf.
Good question. Okay, yeah, no, because this one. Well, same as with this one. So I made the piece, and I did not slip and I did not score. I just sprayed a little water because it's a pretty wet clay. So as long as the clay is pretty consistently wet on both sides, I can join them like that. And also, I will say this clay is like the best clay. I've been using it for 20 years. Big White Laguna clay has a ton of grab and sand, and it will keep its shape. It holds itself up. I can work fast with it, which I like to do. And it also, for some reason, it seems like it will grip something that I put on it. So, yeah. All right. So I'm just gonna do these two here. I hope it's not too boring just watching, you know, all this come together. So you can see this is wet. Pretty wet here. No, I didn't get it long enough. Okay, so here I will. This is probably wetter than this, so I am gonna score this. I'm not gonna worry too much about it, but I will.
So Carolyn, I have a question from Delaney. She was asking about your space. Are you working from home? Is this your studio? How do you manage your practice?
Okay, yeah, good question. Hang on. This is my studio. It's a garage, and I have a garage door that if it stops being windy, I might open it up. During the pandemic, I didn't come here for the first few months. But once I started coming, I realized that nobody else was coming over here, so it seemed to be fine. I have a lot of projects on my kitchen table, I must say. I'm going to concentrate for a second. What am I doing? Okay, I think I'm going to just put this. No, I'm going to put it on the inside. Okay, so I really didn't need to score there, but sometimes I do this kind of lasagna. Somebody one just called it lasagna technique, and I kind of like leaving the marks, the fingerprints. So yes, I go back and forth between my studio and my house. My kilns are all at my house. So I have a test kiln and a kind of a, you know, the middle-sized scut, and then I have an oval kiln, which is really great for big pieces. Okay, so for this, I'm going to, what I did was push up from the outside. As I was pushing up from the outside, I pushed down from the inside. This is
Cindy, can you mute yourself, please?
This is a technique I learned from Lana Wilson. Do y'all know Lana Wilson? She is so in love with texture. She actually wrote a book about cone 6 glazes. If you're into cone 6, it's amazing. There's all kinds of crawl glazes and all kinds of stuff in her book. You can order it, I'm sure, probably from some ceramic store. Okay, so I didn't get enough clay. You'll see when on my work, I'm pretty loose. I really like organic forms, but I can't leave a big hole there. So check this out. So I just a minute ago made a slab, and from all my scraps of clay that I cut out that I, you know, from I was making this, so I just rolled it in the slab roller, and I have these really cool organic designs. So I am going to cut a little area to put this, like a little window. Maybe is it better like that? And then, so I'm gonna, from here, I'm just gonna eyeball it. And instant texture. And I didn't spray or anything because this is really wet clay also. And it is my, you know, big white, which will do anything. So I'm just going to continue with this kind of connecting. But I want to be sure I want to be sure that I have this connected on the inside for sure. Outside, you just have to connect one side really with this clay. Now, I'm not talking about porcelain. Porcelain is a whole different ball game. But with the stoneware that is, you know, holds itself up in a sperm, you can do a lot of things.
I really like how loose you're working and working with the clay so wet. I think that, you know, it gives you sort of permission to add things maybe more spontaneously, not worry so much about slipping and scoring. When you had that base piece made ahead of time, did you make that this morning or did you make it last night?
I just made it this morning, like, you know, 20 minutes before we started the class. And the one key also to be able to work this loose is my clay. I don't know if you can see. I think this is pretty thick. It's not really. It's about, what is that? Like, it's like quarter inch, maybe a little bit bigger than a quarter inch. But you can see that, it, you know, it's really, what do you call it when it has tooth? Is that it?
Plastic?
Yeah, it's plastic and it has tooth, so it holds itself together. So now I'm thinking, what am I doing? Where am I going with this? What kind of shape do I want? And I kind of really love that. So I'm kind of thinking I want to make it a little more like a skirt kind of thing. You know, this is just plain here. Okay.
Does the piece have a base or is it hollow?
Huh? What was that?
Does it have a base or is it hollow? Ah.
The base. See, you can even like do this and this is totally fine. This clay is amazing. And also, if you used paper clay, it'd be similar, you know, just to give it that strength so that you can work with it. Okay, so I'm not going to put the texture on this until we start. Well, I'll do it in a minute, but first I want to get this going because I made this. Can you see this one?
No, we can't. Now we can, yes.
Okay. Oh my gosh, I have so many things on my desk here. I'm just going to make a few of these things.
You're making me feel better because I usually work in such a chaos situation.
This is giving you all permission, total permission to go for it. However you work is the best way to work. It's all about finding your own way. I used to feel guilty about that, and I wouldn't let anybody see my studio because I was like, I'm embarrassed, but I got over it. Okay, so here we have, same thing, bottom, and it was all wet, so I didn't score slippery. I just connected here. And now I'm going to, what am I going to do? I'm going to just, basically this is to show you a face and a head. So I'm going to just close this in and make shoulders. And let's see. So basically I'm just eyeballing a moon shape. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to make another one of these.
So Carolyn, back to the question about your studio. Are you sharing this studio with other people? Is this a guild?
It's not a guild. First, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to bevel this edge. I'm going to wet this edge because it definitely got leather hard. This is leather pretty hard. And I'm going to score. I don't usually, but I feel like I'm performing, so I'm going to today. Okay, so here's my shoulder, and I'm going to bevel. You probably can't see this. Bevel at an angle. Bevel. Okay, so yeah, my studio is I love my studio. It's just this little secret hideout in North Boulder in a garage. Oh, I totally did the wrong edge of the bevel. I'm alone in this one sort of room, which is a good size. And there are other artists and painters around this area in North Boulder. But basically, I'm pretty much here alone most of the time. There's a glass place next to me, puts, you know, glass in windows and cars and stuff like that. So they're kind of busy. Can you see the shoulder happening? Okay, so in this case, I do want to smooth this out. I'm going to smooth the inside. And for this outside, I could leave it just like this because I smoothed the inside, but I think I will just give it a little pressure so that I know it's going to stay there. Okay, so now I'm going to bevel the right side.
So I have a question in the chat from Carrie. And Carrie's asking, what do you fire the clay to?
Okay, so I'd say 20 years I've been doing salt firings, cone 10. I'll bisque these pieces to 06 and then I take them home, put them in my kilns, you know, bisque fire them, bring them back to the studio and then glaze them. And I use all glazes that I've mixed up and tested and played with over the years. And I used to try everything I saw in Ceramics Monthly and, you know, that kind of thing. But now I just use about a dozen ones that I, you know, find that work for me. And I like the colors and they're more predictable than a lot of salt. I mean, I still tried things here and there just for fun. I like to experiment. But basically, as, you know, trying to make a living as a clay sculptor, I kind of want things to come out well. And I'm sure you all do too. Because there's nothing more satisfying than opening the kiln and having it be like Christmas, right? And it's kind of really disappointing when it's the opposite. But I'm sure, Katie, you understand this and have told, you know, I'm sure all people who have been involved with clay know. You love it and are devoted because the good times are worth all the not so good times. Okay. So now this is harder down here. This is a lot wetter up here. So I think I can go, can you all see? So I think I can just go up to the neck and then I should probably work on that one. Okay, so I'm just looking at what shape I have and I'm just kind of, you know, matching my shapes. It's such a cool thing about clay. It's just, you can make it fit. And that's one thing I love about this clay. Another thing, it's just so manageable.
Yeah, compared to a woodworker.
Yeah.
I love watching that you're kind of working and using the clay as your own template as you go. You're not like pre-making the templates. You're just kind of using the measurement of the work itself,
yeah.
Which allows it to really fit and not being too rigid.
Yeah, no rigid. I couldn't be a woodworker. The whole thing about clay being so malleable is what I'm so attracted to, and also actually what healed me, because it moves. You can, as it moves, it moves me. I can move. It's pretty cool. It's kind of an amazing material. I mean, I know that a lot of other materials are like amazing to work with, and you can, find that healing place in whatever medium you choose. But for me, it's clay. Although
I had a ceramics student in Ceramics 1 call clay magic sand.
magic sand, I love that.
I have a question here from Marty. Marty asked in the chat, how long to dry each piece?
Each piece? Okay. So if I have a big animal with big, fragile antlers or something, I'll put it straight way into the kiln. And I'll just fire really slow. I mean, I pretty much fire slow anyway, because I know that my clay has air bubbles in it. If you're a thrower, you need to not have air bubbles. But for what I'm doing, and also another thing about this clay, yeah, I know I have air bubbles because, you see how I put this together. It's like there's air bubbles. But if I fire really slow, it gives the clay a chance. I don't know the scientific lingo about it, but it just doesn't blow up. If I have a whole hollow part inside my piece, I do want to have a hole in the bottom or somewhere so that air can escape. But little bubbles and little, things like that aren't going to be a problem. Does that answer your question?
Marty, does that answer your question?
Yes.
You guys can, yeah, okay.
Okay, so now, I'm just basically playing with, okay, so I went to art school. I have done lots of grad student work in studying anatomy. I did bronzes for a while, figuratively. So I value the time that I spent studying the body. Now, I think, I don't think about it. I'm really glad I did that. And I take liberty with my anatomy, I guess you could say. And so I'm just basically right now, trying to feel my way. I work intuitively. I mean, I have seen people use a pattern to make a head and all that. And I just don't think that way. So, and it's great. I kind of wish I did. Just to be interesting to try. And I think y'all should try it if you're interested in doing figurative work. But I just find that as I have just observed nature and animals and people, and like one summer I was obsessed with studying people's calves. Everywhere I went, I would just stare at people's calves. And I think just observing kind of, and also feeling, how my calf works and feels, helps me to sort of know it. So the next time that I work with clay, it sort of just comes out. So I'm going to let this one firm up a little bit before I put the neck on. And this one, can you see? Okay. I'm going to work on the texture of the top part like I did the bottom part. But while I'm doing that, Katie, why don't you, maybe we should do the PowerPoint first. So that means that I'm going to share, right? Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Okay. One second. If I can figure out how to do this. I'm not sure if I can. Share screen. Okay, can y'all see that? Okay, excellent. Okay, so before I start, I'm just going to get a little water. Hang on. Okay, I washed my hands too because I had clay all over the computer. Okay, can you all hear me? This feels kind of weird, like I'm talking into a void. But y'all are there and you can hear me? Okay, so I'm just going to sort of go through these quickly. Okay, so part of my artistic journey and life journey was that I had a severe head injury about 20 years ago. I was decorating the gym for my daughter's graduation, and I was on a cherry picker, and the cherry picker wasn't locked in place, so it collapsed, and my head was crushed between the cage and the ladder. So just to share with you my story, I knew something was important about this moment because I felt time stop, and I was up there and I thought something special about this moment. And before my head was even crushed, I left my body out of the top of my head, and I was in the corner of the room looking down at my body, and then the whole thing collapsed and crushed my head, and then I fell to the floor in a puddle of blood. And so I was up above myself watching, and I was like so expansive and free and light, and I felt no pain. I really felt nothing, no body things. And I heard a voice. I was there for it seemed like a long time. People were looking at my body, and I heard a voice say, "You have a choice." And I felt surrounded by white light. And I didn't see a tunnel or anything, but I took a moment. I was like, wow, this feels really amazing. I'm not sure I want to go back down into that body. And it seemed like a long time. Who knows? It might have been only a few seconds, but I saw my son, who was 9 years old at the time, and he was standing next to my body with his lunchbox, and his eyes were like this big. And I just looked at him and said, I have to stay. If I have a choice, I have to stay. So, so then, the next thing I knew, I woke up in the hospital, and they did operation on my face. My nose was like totally flat, and I won't go into all the details, but it took me a good 5 or 6 years. In the beginning, I had to relearn how to talk and how to walk, and the doctors really didn't give me much hope. So after 2 years of going to rehab doctors, which I felt totally exhausted that whole time, I told my neurologist that I wanted to just work in my studio with clay. And he said, and thank goodness he was like just experimenting with alternative ways of healing a brain injury. So he said, yeah, go ahead, just, stop all your treatments and then work in your studio and check in with me every 6 weeks, and let's just see how it goes. And that's when my brain started turning around. Working with clay in the quiet studio, just manipulating the clay did something with my brain. And now, 20 years later, they have done lots of studies around working with your hands really helps the neurological part of your brain, and also helps connect the synapses so that everything else works. Along my healing journey, it was like I had so many crazy body things that kind of fell apart. Ended up in the hospital for diabetes, for like a kidney failure, and I lost my hearing, and so many little body things that just that depend on the brain. So in any case, as I would be working on a piece, and also once I started working with clay, it's just like my hands knew anatomy and it knew what to do, and I started having dreams every night of pieces that wanted to be made. And like these ones that I'm going to show you right now are, let me just do this. They are from dreams that I had during that first 5, 6, 7 years. So at the very beginning, my husband took a ball of clay out of the bag and put it in front of me, and I had a broken hand and frozen shoulder and all kinds of stuff. But so what I did was I just took a pencil and poked holes in this ball of clay. I think I did that for like 2 or 3 weeks, and it felt so soothing to my nervous system. Honestly, I still love making dots or poking holes because it is so soothing to my nervous system. And I've heard that from other people too. So I started making these pieces, these dreams that wanted to be made. I mean, just like it was in the dream. And I couldn't talk, but I could work with clay. And it's kind of an amazing thing that happened. So these were pieces I made, I guess, in the first 5 years. I had a show at the museum. They wanted me to document my recovery from a head injury. And I was like, I can't even walk around the block without fainting. But I was honored to, so I said, yes, okay. And so I, worked all these pieces. This one, this was a dream. My head felt like it was floating like 12 feet above my body. And I was looking out of a cereal box. That's how it felt. This is when I couldn't really talk. All these pieces were soda fired. So basically just this big white clay with soda ash and just a little bit maybe of coloring, underglaze or slips. I just was hoping that someday I would be normal and be able to function properly. So once I was able to go out, I went to the store one day and I forgot my list, and I got in there, and with the lights and people talking to me, I fainted like 3 times before I could leave the store. And since I didn't have my list, I went and stood in front of the mayonnaise section and got 5 different kinds of mayonnaise. Got home and Bill was like, well, where are the groceries? And I started crying. And I was like, I don't know what I was supposed to get, but here's some mayonnaise. I mean, it's kind of funny now, but it was not funny then. So I made this piece, I had a dream about just trying to find my boundary of my space, of where did I end and where did everything else start. I felt like I didn't have a boundary. And actually, a lot of times my husband would put me in a rocking chair after dinner in the living room, and I would be rocking in the rocking chair and notice that I was sitting in a circle with a lot of like 10, maybe 8 or 10 dead people who died. My teachers, a former yoga teacher, meditation teacher, and they would be telling me jokes or telling me how to heal myself or giving me more encouragement to work with clay. I thought that was normal. I thought everybody did that. I was just like, okay, hi, what's the joke for this evening? So I had one foot in this world and one foot in the other world. And that went on for several years. So while I was sitting in the rocking chair a lot of the time, I saw my backyard, which luckily I have all these animals back there. And I feel like that was another thing that was part of my healing, was really studying and being captivated by animals. They're so instinctual, and it doesn't seem like they spend a lot of time thinking or worrying. They're present. And I felt like I was so present also. If I thought, I didn't feel, a lot of times there was no thinking. It was just kind of staring ahead. I know my family was really worried. So so the way that I made the body there is just that same way of just connecting it on the inside and leaving the outside. So underneath the elephant head is me, my head under there. You can take it off and on. I felt like I kind of had to make my way with clay. So when I made this piece, I felt big and kind of, I could take up space, and I felt more confident in the world or interacting with people. So this was a bigger than life-size piece. when I made her body pretty quickly, and then the neck was really long, and I said, what do you want right here where your neck is? And she said, I want to be close to all my nature friends, and I want them to travel alongside. So I said, okay, we'll make a necklace of a boat with all your animal friends. So when I made the figures, the faces were often very serene. This is kind of magical. When I would make the face and have with that quality that I was yearning for, I became it as I made it. It worked the other way as well. If I had a horrible shooting, pain in my temple, I would make a head, and then I would, like drill a hole in her temple, or, put a hole in her temple, and all of a sudden I had no pain in my temple. Now, years later, I read that in Africa, the medicine women build these mounds of dirt, and they poke holes in them or put big dirt balls on them, and that represents the person who would attract the malicious spirits bringing the bad diseases, instead of letting, asking for the spirits to bring the diseases to their bodies. So I thought, okay, that's kind of cool. So then, this is a dream. I remember feeling when I woke up, am I going to always just be, living alone in this tower, surrounded by my animals? This piece was a hope that I would go from being sort of the middle-aged person to being the old wise turtle. That was what the dream sort of felt like to me. So then I got in this period where I was really tired, and I had no motivation, and I was probably depressed and didn't really get myself to working with clay. My daughter said, Mom, do what you do best. Make how you want to feel. Make how you want to feel. And I was like, okay. So I made this whole series of women on couches. And I was no longer unmotivated. I was no longer depressed. I was so excited to see these pieces come to life. It made me feel like I could honor that in myself. So I did this whole series of, and I'm still actually doing these couches and chairs. I mean, doesn't that kind of make you feel like she is? Are y'all still out there? Okay. So this, I was just like, having these dogs were kind of like symbols of my protection energy to sort of help me make my way in the world and feel confident, really. This is me and Bill on Saturday night. That was just kind of fun. That piece is at the Kirkland Museum in Denver. So this is continuing on with photos and images that came from my dreams, and you can see that they're kind of lightening up. And then I had a dream of these toys, these pull toys, and started this whole series of myself being floated by my favorite animals. I encourage you to really look into making series of things, because as you go farther into this image or this symbolism, you'll find deeper meaning, and actually it's just fun. It's just fun. And so this is salt fired. This is, that orange is a lead glaze that I had a jar of from like 25 years ago. They discontinued. And I put it on after the salt firing, and it came out really orange. I was kind of amazed. Maybe Bob, you know about all that. Inch by inch, I felt like I was gaining my health, my strength, my confidence in the world. I would go back and forth, having time alone, with my favorite animals. And then I got captivated by camels because one of my friends invited me to Morocco. Oh my gosh. we were both so worried about me because I couldn't eat anything and I was, fainting, but I did it. And so then this is the persimmon story. I was like captivated by that orange color, and a friend of mine brought me a case of persimmons, and I'd never eaten them before. So I got really sick eating all these persimmons, but I wasn't done with that color. So I started this army of persimmon women, and I set out to make 100, but I ended up making 8 and I was over it.
Carolyn, someone from the chat, Holly, was asking, how large are these pieces?
This one right here is about, like I don't know what, 20 inches or so, but some of them are life size. That one with the boat in her neck was like bigger than life size. So it depends. This one's kind of small. I had a dream that I was being floated by all these. First, I was floating above a fox, and then I was floating above a lion and a tiger. And the feeling was kind of like when I was floating in the air above my body. So I was like, how can I capture that in clay? And these are not capturing it, but it was fun to do. So I'm still working on trying to make clay float. I don't know, maybe Katie, you have some ideas. Or just use another material. That's another idea. You got some ideas?
Well, we're always trying to defeat gravity as sculptors, right? Trying to get things to levitate. I guess it depends on if it's a freestanding form, if you want to use something that's suspended from the ceiling or hanging off the wall to give it the illusion that it's floating, but it's always an illusion.
Did you see the show at the museum last year? I had 100 floating animals. They all had medieval harnesses. And that was cool because, they were heavy. And actually, when we put up the first 5, they all fell to the ground and broke. But we got 100 up, and we did a special grid and, special steel wire. And it was in the air like a cloud. It was cool, but it still was like solid sculpture clay, So I don't know. I'm still working on that.
Magnets.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was saying magnets. You can.
Yeah, maybe. So just here's some more images of pieces that I have made. The whole cart thing is another thing that I got into. This piece is about 24 inches tall. This is huge, believe it or not. That bear was probably like 3 feet, maybe 2 or 3 feet across. But the zebra is huge. It didn't fit in the kiln, broke the leg, and I thought, well, should I just scrap it? But I fired it anyway, because then after I broke the leg, it fit in the kiln. So ended up with a baseball bat leg. So, peg leg pulley. That's another way with working with clay. Things, just ad lib, go for whatever. And that's my style, working organically, letting this clay speak to me and letting me sort of follow along, where it's leading me. So I want to, by this time, I think I had somebody ask me to make porcelain teeth, show them how to make porcelain teeth. So I made this whole thing to show them how to make porcelain teeth. Oh, there's that again. This is about 7.5 feet tall. I put the body in the kiln, in the salt kiln. The kiln died. Took me 4 days to fix the thermocouple or whatever it was that was wrong with it. Fired it again to a hotter temperature. The hands, when I put them in, were straight up. When I opened the kiln, they were like that. I thought that was kind of magical.
Carolyn, can you talk a little bit about on the last slide, the mixed media? It looks like you're using steel. Do you have someone fabricate that for you, or do you do it yourself?
I don't do it myself. At that point, I had a friend, he's since moved to Arizona, but he did the fence. It's kind of, yeah, so we collaborated. And I didn't know when I made the body what I was actually going to do. So once I got her out, I could not believe the glaze. The glaze turned out like glass, like water, like the Caribbean Ocean, with this other, beautiful yellow ochre color. And I thought, well, she needs a base, you know, she needs a skirt. So anyway, I collaborated with a friend. This was just some dream I had of like being a whole bunch of different people. So then I had a show at the Boulder Public Library, and I did all of these goats, and I had just seen the goats in trees in Morocco. So I drew the tree on the wall and did that. I taught a workshop in Mexico by this point and did that piece. That's a life-size piece I showed with Frank Sampson, the painter. I just love him. I don't know if y'all know him, but he's a wonderful painter here in Boulder. This piece is about 8 or 9 feet long. It's in sections. That's another way to do something big. I sat on this table and drew around my legs and made that from my size. Of course, when I put her in the salt kiln and I opened the kiln door and she was so teeny. I mean, she's still large, but it was like, she used to be so big. And there is the salt kiln that I use at the Potter's Guild. And I think that's the last one, so yay. Okay, so.
I have a question, and I don't know if you're gonna get into this at some point, but looking at all your finished work and your surfaces, knowing that you're firing to Cone 10 salt, we just did a wood and salt firing this weekend. And are you using a lot of like flashing slips, mostly clay body, or do you also have specific glazes? And are you going to talk about this at some point?
I'll talk about it right now. Yeah, I use flashing slips mostly. I use porcelain slip because this clay has a lot of grog and it tends to go a little dark if there's much reduction. I have, like I said, maybe 6 or 8 glazes that I use that are pretty predictable on the, and you saw from my work, it's mostly that turquoise blue color, copper glazes, and I love the yellows too, with red iron oxide in the glaze. I've done some experimenting with, altering glazes that I have found in magazines or from people or whatever. And, it's tricky. I mean, I try a new glaze and it's like, it works in the magazine, it looks amazing. In my kiln, it sucks, it's like, so there's just a lot of tweaking and finding what works in my particular kiln. I have also fired my glazes in a soda kiln, does completely different reactions. So, yeah. Does that answer your question?
I guess I'm wondering in terms of like some of those bright colors that you were able to get, the orange, I know one of them was leaded, but not that one. Are those under glazes, or are they flashing slips, or are they commercial glazes?
No commercial glazes. Yeah, it's under glazes. Okay, so that was one thing I learned like 25 years ago, just working with the salt kiln. Most all the Amoco, is it the velvets? Yeah, the velvets, even the new bright yellows will go to Cone 10 salt, which is pretty amazing. They get a little bit more subtle, but you can still, if you don't reduce too much, you can still get really bright colors. The red, the radiant red, the flame orange is like super orange, bright yellow. And then all the blues and the turquoises and all those are like really good. And you can do them in wood too. I've done them in wood. And of course in wood, they have that longer saturation time, so it gets a little bit, and there's more reduction. So it will lose its really bright quality, but you can still get a really good color with those underglazes. You should try it. I mean, if you want to even keep the underglaze colors brighter, put a clear glaze over it. Then the ash and the reduction won't affect it as much.
Thank you. And if anyone else has questions about surface, just go ahead and put them in the chat.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and work on these. And maybe in a few minutes, we should just take a little short break. And I'm going to go to the bathroom.
So, yeah, just let me know and I'll play the video.
Okay, yes. First, I'm gonna just put this neck on so it can be getting hard. Maybe if anybody has questions, it's a good time.
You know, I'm really taken by your story of your trauma, and just sort of just what you experienced in that moment and how you're able to sort of transfer it into your work over time. It's really powerful. And I know that you've been teaching a lot of healing classes. Could you, while you're working, talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I love making art. I love being an artist. I will always be an artist and do art. But what I have become also really fascinated by is healing, the healing power of art. And so in my classes, I talk about my story, first of all, and then I lead people through. So my idea is that if I can get people engaged on a mental level, I have their attention. I go from that into like image making, which is a little bit farther down. And then I take people into clay, and it's all process. It's not like we're working for a product. So I think that also making collages are incredible ways of bypassing your intellectual mind and all the inner critics and just tapping into the subconscious. For a year, I did that. I just did collages every day. I did one a day in the morning, and then from there, just sort of let my hands make whatever it wanted to in clay. And often it was a shoot off from, you know, what the collage brought up. And I would pick images that I either felt really attracted to or that I did not feel attracted to. I like, you know, had an aversion toward, because I felt like it's all a balance and everything is important. So
where would you get your collage material? Like from magazines, newspapers? Would you download them and print them out?
I got a lot of them from old magazines. But I also, what else did I do? I just actually made watercolor papers with like whatever random abstract watercolor images on there. Use those. Sometimes I would just do like watercolor one color, you know, like this turquoise blue or whatever. And that would be, you can see I'm not scoring or slipping. I may regret it. No, I don't think so. And then I would, but mainly I think National Geographics. And nowadays, I don't know, it's hard to get magazines. Okay, so I didn't quite measure that right. But if you don't have magazines, I have learned, like when I was traveling, I could do a collage out of like, you know, the paper umbrella at the bar, or like I mean, not that I was drinking at the bar, but, or like the little Santa Fe magazine, you know, or whatever. And I have so many art supplies, papers and handmade papers and whatever. But for me, I prefer having at least one or two images, because I just really like working from imagery, you know, animals or people or boats or, you know, something that for me, I feel like my work is literal. I was told by some teacher why are you so literal? Don't be so literal. And so I, for a long time, thought I was bad because I was literal. But then I decided, what the heck? I'm old. I can be literal. I can be literal. And what, you know, what makes me happy is what I want to go for. Why this life is short. You know, that's working with that whole inner critic thing and judgments, especially trying to live up to this expectations of someone else. So that's, you know, part of why I'm just like, I don't need to slip. Let me try it.
You know, I think it's interesting that comment that your work is literal. I mean, when you did your presentation, I kept thinking how tapped in you are to your dreams and that you remember your dreams. And then the dreams is sort of this entry to the unconscious, and the work is all sort of jumbled in the dream, and there is no sort of direct literal nature to a dream. So, I mean, I would say that your work is more sort of focused on sort of these imaginary spaces that you're able to remember and access, that maybe some of us, you know, we wake up in the morning and we don't remember. I don't know.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. That's validating. That's way more helpful than somebody saying your work is too literal. So y'all listen to Katie. She knows what she's talking about. That's the mark of a good teacher. You know, tell your students to find their own way. You know, here's what I do. Try it, go for it, copy it if you want, you know, but, you know, after you do a dozen of them, you'll be doing your own thing. It can't be like mine anyway.
So when you do your collages, are they mostly intuitive sort of explorations that just kind of get you started in the studio? Do you work from them and make three-dimensional work inspired by their palettes or by their content?
I have done that. I have one class I taught was like just everybody make this collage and then make it into clay. We did all these cool wall sculptures out of everybody did it out of their you know, their collage. That was super cool. It's one way to create. You know, all I'm telling you all is this is how I have found to make my way into creativity. Trust yourself. Whatever inspires you, whatever you're captivated by, follow it. Because when you're making, when you're creating, that's where the magic happens. Not sitting at home thinking about it or wondering, you know, is this original or am I good enough or I'm not literal enough, I'm too literal or whatever. I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too whatever. If you can get yourself with the clay in hand and commit, that is where the magic happens. Just show up. I forgot what you said.
I did too.
Oh, well. Okay, so.
Do you want to take a break and I can play the video?
Yeah, let's take a break. You play the video. I'm going to see if these legs are firm enough for me to work on this animal over here. And
so do you want to tell them before I play the video what the video is about?
It's a time lapse of me making a piece.
Okay.
And it just shows, you know, it's kind of entertaining. My son's and his friend did this like this was about 10 years ago, I guess. But it just shows, you know, over time how I made this big piece.
And she does have a YouTube channel, so I'm going to share my screen right now and I'm going to play the time lapse, and then she's going to take a break. You're welcome to watch the time lapse or take a break as well. And then maybe 15 minutes, 11 o'clock, Carolyn?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Katie, do you have the sound on or not?
I don't know if you guys have seen Carolyn's website. I have it pulled up right here. She's got a lot of really great content on here, galleries of work. So if you want to go and check out some of the work that was in the lecture, this is my favorite piece. I love lemurs so much. I love this piece. But she also has a lot on here about her travel. And at some point, maybe we could talk a little bit about travel with her, all the different places that she's been, and how travel, influences her practice as well. And then she also has some online courses. So if you would be interested in taking a class with Carolyn, I know she has some classes that are about creativity specifically and healing. And so that might be a fun opportunity as well. So
do a small face for people who are interested in how I do faces. I don't think that this head is going to be dry enough. And I know people wanted to know about animals. So I have my big animal. I'm going to bring it over here so you can see what I did here. I just very loosely and organically kind of added straps for the shoulders and sort of made myself a female figure. And I will, continue on with this. I don't think we'll get to it today though. So this is just, how you can play with texture really. So let me just bring these over. So I made these legs early this morning, and they're rather firmed up. Yeah, and there's a hole in them. I just used this to poke a hole in there, and I went all the way through, but it's gotten a little bit small there, so I might carve that out at the end. So, some four-legged animal. Okay.
So Carolyn, there was a question in the chat from before our break from Marty, and she asked, when making a large piece, Do you complete it in one day? And if not, how do you store it?
If it's a large piece, no, I won't finish it in one day. No, I often have several things going at once. I just wrap them, I let them get firm enough so that if I wrap the whole thing in plastic, it won't collapse. So, and if it is really, really wet when I leave for the day, I'll just loosely cover it with like, well, they're all covering up something, but just dry cleaner bag or plastic bag, or you can even use like a cotton sheet. Sometimes I just lay a cotton sheet over whatever I'm working on, and that lets it dry just a little bit, but it just won't let it dry out. So, and I keep them for days. Since pandemic times, I'm trying to finish stuff. So I finished this piece that I've had since 15 years. A bust that I made, I didn't know how to finish it or what to do, so I had it in plastic. Do you believe that? I finished it, I fired it, and it's cool.
I can't believe 15 years. I had one piece I had wrapped up for a year, and I was so proud of myself. But wow, 15 years. That's impressive.
I carried it from studio to studio.
How come you never really wanted to? How come it took you so long to finish it? Did you not know what to do with it? Were you bored of it?
I just lost my motivation. And it was just, I don't know, what was I thinking? I wasn't really thinking, and I just made the thing, and I thought, well, and my son said, Mom, just wrap it up and I'll help you carry it from studio to studio. And it was big, it was life size. Okay, let's see if we can do that. This clay is really wet. I wish it was not quite so wet, but since it is wet, I can you see what's happening?
Yeah.
So
I love the setup below the belly specifically.
Isn't that good? So what I'm looking at is, do I have the legs far enough apart? I have all these animal books that I used to look at, but now I just kind of intuit, or look at it and think, does this please me? That's all I'm really after. So what I'm doing is, it was just a plain solid slab, and I'm just using my fingers, I could use a tool, to sort of smooth that into the hole in the leg. And then, this is kind of cool, I can see what I'm doing from the other side. Oh, I should have put it on a bat, but oh well, I'll let it firm up and then. So now, this is, I just wanted to show you this because to make something bigger, now what I will do is let this firm up. Then what I would do is take slabs or coils, doesn't matter, and just, see how I want to, I usually start from the back, and I just see how I want to build up the back of this animal. And I know that if the length of the leg, usually I can do that far up for the body too, especially in the middle. Or it depends on what animal. So, deers are kind of long and skinny, elephants are kind of tall and round, but they all, have pretty long legs, comparatively. So I like to really firm this up. I am really impatient normally, but I learned if I just let these firm up, make the legs at the beginning. Now this is pretty solid and it's not going to collapse, even when I start adding clay. But I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to show you, a face. No, actually I'm going to do an animal first, okay? I'm going to show you a smaller animal, just so that I can show you the proportions and that kind of thing. Is this a good angle? Or, maybe if I move this.
Yeah, that would be better if you move that.
Okay. All right. So you can make, I'm just gonna do a quick one so that we'll show you. The same thing I do here, only small. So I'm just, can you see, or should I turn it down? How's that? Okay.
That's better because we can see the surface now.
So now I often, when I'm making an animal, make the legs fat because just to hold it up so I can get making it. And then I carve them down after they're more firmed up to make the shape that I want. Honestly, it's so fun just to make quick animals. One gal on Instagram made like, I don't know, Katie, maybe you heard of this person. I can't remember her name. She made 100 elephants in like 24 hours or something. Do you know that?
No, yeah. That's crazy.
She auctioned them off, and then all the money went to save the elephants.
Wow, that's great.
That's cool. And so she did a live video, you know, of like the whole time she was working on it.
That'd be a fun sort of like clay club exercise where we all made something kind of like the empty bowl, but we, you know, did animals and then to save the animals. Yeah. I would save the lemurs, but I don't know if they're in danger. I don't know.
Not in danger. In Madagascar, anyway. All right, so I might just, for my own sake, well, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to find, okay, I'm going to make my hole. Let's give it a little foot. I don't know what it is yet. Hey, Katie, I'm glad we haven't had any security issues.
Shh. Yeah, we're doing great.
Yeah, amazing. I'm hoping that y'all watching me are getting a ton of permission to just play like kindergarten. Because if it's not fun, I'm not going to do it. And I know y'all have fun doing it too. It looks like Marty asked what kind of clay. Maybe that was from a long time ago. It's Big White from Laguna. Tons of grog, great in atmospheric firing, great in wood. In the wood, might want to try it in your wood kiln.
Carrie said that the name of the woman who made the elephants is Charlotte Mary Pack.
Oh, thank you, Charlotte. Yeah, Charlotte. Okay, so here is a piece of, you know, kind of a little bit not so wet clay. There's my belly. And there, I'm just going to connect it really well with my little round tool. Okay, so okay, so this would be easier. Let me just put it on the back. Can you see? Okay. So it looks like total kindergarten at the moment. I love that. And you know, Picasso said, remember what Picasso said? That he tried his whole life to be able to paint like a preschooler. and that once he got to preschool, he made it. Honestly, I don't usually do it this preschoolerish, but I'm kind of loving it though. Okay, so for the sake of time, I'm just gonna like lightly spritz it and start adding. Wait, I'm gonna use this something else over here. This is a little bit firmer. Okay, so I'm just going to, the thing about it is I didn't really cut it to shape. I can just sort of manipulate it and make it round if I want to. And it's the thing about clay. Have y'all made animals in class yet, Katie?
No, but my ceramics 1 class, who I'm going to be showing this video to, their final project is pretty sculptural. So they can kind of choose, what they want to do. So this is great for them.
Wow. All right, so you see what I'm doing? I'm just basically giving myself an animal type of shape. And I will just keep going. And it's amazing, actually, if you get the right consistency of clay, how quickly this can go. And, I'm just connecting slabs. And like I said, this is like the magic clay. And you could do it also with other clays, but I'm prejudiced. I love this clay.
We have a CN1 red hand building clay that we recycle in the studio, and I'm thinking I don't know if it would be quite as stiff as this, but pretty forgiving.
What cone?
Cone 10.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you can see that I'm just gonna well, you know what? I'm gonna take some of this off. Okay, so I'm adjusting. You can see that I'm just like adding clay here and there, and there's air bubbles in there.
Annette said that she used to throw with Big White. Mm-hmm. She would throw big pots with Big White, and it would sand down her hands because it had so much grog in it.
Do you still have fingerprints?
They're gone. She's illegal.
I'm sure. Okay, if you could see me from the side, maybe it would be better, but all right, what animal do you think?
Elephant?
Yeah.
Jane thinks elephant.
Okay, yeah, we could go elephant. We could go elephant. Yeah, I kind of think elephant. For a moment, I thought polar bear, but elephant could be too.
It's sort of amazing to me that it's holding its shape and doesn't need anything on the inside, like newspaper or anything like that.
I know, right? That's the miracle of this clay. I mean, can you believe this? And this is how I do that one will be the same, exactly the same. I just wanted to do a small one to give you the whole picture.
I love watching you piece the slabs together because I think it affords a lot of freedom. I think coiling can be really, I don't know, restrictive. And just these sort of slabs of clay, almost patched together like a quilt in a way.
And I might just leave it like that. Sometimes I smooth it out. Sometimes I just leave it raw. But it's like you can work quickly because it just holds its shape.
Well, and I also would say, do you normally work this fast?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you work that fast, you don't overwork it.
Yeah, it's like nothing fancy. It's just like I think I'm just impatient, so I want to see it done. I'm like, come on. So I think that's one thing. Yeah, elephant. I think an elephant. See, like wet. I mean, this is one is really kind of wet and one is kind of not wet. But when it's doing, if it's really different, I'm going to smooth. I'm going to definitely smooth the inside. And when I say definitely, it's like, yeah, okay, we'll do the best we can.
Marty just said in the chat that Nan McKinnell used to make large pots just like this.
Oh, really? Just pots? Oh, yeah, Nan McKinnell. Mm-hmm.
My Ceramics 1 students are going to be like, why did we have to coil our vessel?
Yeah, well, they may be spoiled now. Usually, I'll just crank up the music and just like when I come home from having a good, 5, 6 hours in the studio, I'm so happy. It's just makes me so happy. And, sometimes, sometimes I don't really like it. Not so much anymore, but sometimes I'll be like, it's not done. And I'll wrap it up and leave it for something to start with the next day. And I love actually tricking myself, like coming to the studio. These days, my dreams have changed. I don't have the same kind of dreams that I can just translate right into clay so much anymore. I do sometimes, but not as much as I did. So I'll leave a piece on the table. So when I come in the next day, it's like, okay, I don't have to think at all. I don't have to, stare at, what am I doing, so I just start in on what I left myself. Sometimes I'll just, do little dibs of clay and just see how I feel about, where or how it's shaping up. And then I think that if I don't dry it so fast, the clay sort of comes together in a way. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't really worry so much about, not having air bubbles, really.
So I have a question from Annette. I'm going to see if I can ask this question correctly. She's saying, okay, you want to make an elephant now. We've decided. Mm-hmm. How do you know what the elephant looks like? Like, how do you know? Do you have an image in your head that you work from? Is it all muscle memory? Have you just made a ton of elephants before, so you just know the proportions?
Good question. Honestly, I will look at Google it, look at a book. I'll say though that after my head injury, I just kind of knew anatomy. I knew animals. I knew it just sort of came to me, and I didn't have that before. Now you don't need a head injury to do that. You just make 20 of them and you'll have it. It's the same thing I say about faces. I'm going to show you how I make a face. Go and make 20 of them. I used to say 100, but now I say 20. And just, don't belabor them, just make 20. And you'll be surprised. I don't know, Katie, do you tell your students that?
I mean, I especially on the wheel, I tell them to make as many as possible, but not usually with sculpture, but that makes sense. I mean, it is sort of, you know, it's like figure drawing.
Mhm.
You know, you've got to just keep drawing the figure quickly and gesturally, you know, as well as learning the anatomy to then sort of have those neurons wire together. You know, it's interesting that you say that before your head injury. Did you sculpt animals before your head injury?
Yeah, but they were like really whimsical and simple. I mean, not bad. They were just different. And they became more realistic, and I just knew, you know, where the bone structure was. I don't know how that happened, but yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not a neuroscientist, but I do read a lot about the brain and you know, sometimes, you know, if you have if there's a stroke patient or in your situation, a head injury, your brain rewires itself. And it's possible that it opened up an area on the right side of your brain
Yeah.
to visualize those things more three-dimensionally. I mean, seems like that happened.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Definitely. I mean, you know, even the fact that I couldn't talk, I couldn't think in linear ways, but I could make images. It was definitely the other part of my brain that kicked in.
There's a really good book that Temple Grandin wrote. She has autism. It's called Thinking in Pictures.
Oh, cool.
You should read it.
Yeah.
Everyone should read it.
Yeah.
I love the little butt of the elephant already.
Awesome. Okay, this clay is a little a bit wetter, so it's getting a little slumpy. So I'm also using coils, but I'm flattening them out myself. Whatever, you know, whatever it takes.
Can you talk a little bit about gravity right now?
Yeah, you can see gravity is happening. Can you see that? So I, you know, could put something under there. If I could find something that size. Gravity, yeah, especially working quickly. I will run up, oh, I can't find anything. What do you want me to say about gravity, Katie?
I don't know. I feel like my students, we all struggle with it, especially like with heads, and you're at this next stage right now. Is the clay just really forgiving and it's not collapsing on you? I feel like if my students were trying to do this, it would be, we'd have to stop and let it dry a little bit.
Yeah, which is probably the smartest idea. But, you know, I'm impatient. So I'm going to try to just get this on here. And then, you know, once I get it on, it'll firm up a little bit, and I'll come back and be like, you know, that neck needs to be fixed, and this needs a little tweaking. But at least, okay, this is what I do. Whatever it takes for me to be pleased with myself, I just want to be like, yeah, this is really fun. How far do I have to go to make this like really fun? And I could be more patient and wait and come back, and it'd probably be easier, and I wouldn't have to correct stuff so much. But, you know, this is kind of looking like, who's that Heffalumpa or something on Sesame Street?
Heffalump, oh, or Snuffleupagus.
Yes. But, you know, it's kind of elephantine, and I'm fine with it. And of course, you know, as soon as we do this, look, I mean, how can it not be an elephant? But, you know, normally I will do like this is kind of a rough end, you know, sketch. I would say this is a sketch, but I wanted to show you how I started with animals. And I will come back and I will do the feet, and I might even do toes and whatever. I don't do like the whole thing is like this realistic thing, but now I'm pleased. I know I have an elephant, and I can, you know, now see the gravity. I've got to let this firm up so that I can work on that. But does that make sense?
Yeah. When you go back and do the details later, are you working subtractively?
So I will probably, because you can see this is wet. This is pretty wet. And now that I look at it, yeah, I will add, I will take away. I'll add, take away. Card, take away, and add. If I want to really, you know, basically what I'm thinking, I want this to be an elephant that has a rider, me, you know, I'm in all my pieces. So I want to make a little, I'm envisioning a basket, you know, something, umbrella, and I'm inside there. And maybe he's on wheels. I don't know if I wanted to get all detailed about it, you know, but this is like exciting because now I have, you know, it's like I did my sketch, and I can play with, you know, where I want to go with it. I might want to smooth it out. I might not. I might cover this whole thing with a carpet, tassels, that kind of thing.
Would that be in clay, the carpet and the tassels, like texture?
I could do, nah, you know, I love texture, but I also love to paint. So I probably do like a nubby textural Moroccan carpet thing with tassels out of clay. And then when I glaze it, I'll probably do, you know, like Moroccan design, like from a rug or something. With my, you know, with my colors, you know, I think that's really fun too. And before I do, after I make this, that ear's gonna fall off, I would probably, since, you know, I'm firing with other people in the saw kiln who like to use reduction somewhat, not much, but so I'll probably slap a coat of, with a fan brush of porcelain slip over it, which will make it like a really cool base for my brighter colors. Okay, so there's that. I'm just looking at the time. Oh, we still have an hour. Are y'all up for more stuff? Yes? Okay. Any questions about this whole process?
So I have a question from someone in the classroom. This is from Jane, and Jane is my animal person. And Jane is asking, if you were to make that basket for the figures to sit in, would that be separate, detachable? Would it be connected?
Okay, good question. I love all these technical questions, which I never think about. So if I were to make a cage and the rug and everything, what was the question? Was I going to attach it?
Would you make the figures like separate and like so that they're removable, or would they be attached?
Okay, I know, yes, I know what I'll do. Sorry, I'm in the right brain. I would make the person and probably the cart thing, basket, separately. And then I would see how I want it to fit. And then I would like to think that I would attach it, because when I'm firing the kiln with other people and they pick up my pieces and stuff falls off, it's because I didn't attach the person into the basket thing. I would have known to pick it up and be very careful. But so my goal would be, yes, make it separately, and then attach it. I would score and slip, and I would do it when it's leather hard. And often it takes me a little while to know exactly where it's going to go, and you know, that kind of thing. Like if it's a more complex piece, I will take some time on it. You know, and once this gets to be leather hard, I will look at it and decide if the legs need to be longer. Honestly, for, you know, when I put it on there, the legs slump down. That's gravity. So I will once it's leather hard, I'll lay it on a piece of foam on its side, and I will probably add the length to the legs and then form the feet. But right now I did it quickly so that I would be like cool, and I kind of want the backbone to come a little bit higher. So I might, once it's a little bit more firmed up, I might cut a hole right here and go in and work from the inside, make his belly a little fatter, but right now I'm pleased because I have a basic shape that I can work from. And normally I would make like 3 somethings like that and get to this far, quickly, and then go have lunch or take a hike or something, and then come back and there, yeah, I definitely need longer legs, I can see that. But, and then while it's, on its side, I'll reinforce the inside where the legs are and poof out the belly, so it's basically inside and outside.
I love this idea that you're gonna like do surgery on him, like open him up and then like go in with the wooden tool. Like, and I think that like the whole time I'm thinking, oh, I would always have my students stuff with newspaper, to support the shape. But if you do that, then you can't go back in to do that incision to sort of create that backbone or the gesture, which is kind of an interesting approach.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, you can do all kinds. I mean, it's a little bit wet, but, and I know, I mean, I want to show more. One of the things that I will say over and over is volume. I'm looking for volume and I'm looking for bone structure. So, there's the pelvic, the hip joint here. There's the vertebrae here. I can, even if I go through, I'll just patch it up, if I have something longer, I can go here, and I want to be sure he has a brain. Basically, I don't think I've seen people work like this, like where you just throw it together and then come back and reevaluate. And, basically it's an intuitive process trying to find my way, what makes me pleased, really. And I will look at see, now I have a hole there, which is kind of cool. Maybe I'll leave it, maybe I won't. But and also, like right here, I got kind of thick with the I mean, normally I don't really mind that, and if I fire really slow, it won't be a problem. But since I'm right there and I feel it, I might just kind of thin that out a little. Same over on this side. I love the idea of making 100 in 24 hours. Wouldn't that be cool? Y'all should do it.
Yeah, that's how you get that muscle memory, right?
Yeah.
I will say that there's sort of like this fearlessness in how you are, working with the clay, and I think it's inspiring because I think all of us tend to get a little rigid and tight in our process, and so this is just very loose, and I think that we can all learn from that.
I'm laughing because I'm looking at it going, oh my God, I've never done anything so wacky and loose. I mean, it's like, I think I'm trying to do it quickly for y'all. And like, the head's ready to fall off. I don't like the neck, it's super funny, but I'm kind of proud of myself for just, I mean, I'm glad that I showed you the technique. And I don't know that I'm not usually this loose. This is pretty loose, but I kind of might be my next step, just be loose.
Well, it keeps the work alive. We talk about pots on the wheel becoming stiff,
yeah.
And how to bring that sort of life and gesture. And especially if you're making an animal or a figure, you need to imbue that object with life, however you find that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being so kind and generous with your appreciation. This is pretty wild. But you can see that the clay is holding up pretty well. I mean, the more I futz with it, the more it's kind of caving in and losing its, strength here. So I'm going to stop pretty soon. But just what I showed you, going inside, I love doing that. And this is pretty funny. Anyway, okay, elephant. And one of my dreams actually recently was an elephant made up of all different animals. So this may be the first step of me following that dream. Because I maybe had to get really loose, and now I might, see certain animals in these shapes and patterns here. I don't know. I'm going to play with it.
Well, it makes me think of the one from the slideshow of the figure where you imagined yourself as all these other people.
Mm-hmm.
That was a really powerful one, and that is not literal, just so you know.
Thank you. Yeah, it's not literal. Okay, I am now going to check on this. Yeah, that's still wet. I'm going to, it would be so cool if y'all had clay, because you could do this along with me. I'm going to make a face. If anybody has clay and wants to follow along, it would be kind of cool, I think. Are you in the studio, Katie, or?
Unfortunately, we're in a lecture room, so they didn't bring any clay with them. But yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
You could run to the ceramics room if you wanted with your laptop.
Okay, so in that case, I am going to show how I make a face about this size. Now, if I had that bust that I was working on, I would just build up from the neck up, and I would make a oval, and then do this on the face for that. But when you have a big head like that, you can go from the inside and the outside, same as the elephant. But just for the sake of showing you a face, I am going to make this into a sort of smoothish oval, egg type of shape, face shape.
So for your larger forms, you don't work solid, you work with
Right.
slabs.
Yeah. I mean, I have made solid bodies and then carved them out. But my style just seems a bit tedious for me. So I just actually love doing, well, this is just for demo, but for my faces and bodies and everything, animals, I just, it's just like giving myself a hollow thing, a shape. I'm working with a shape. Although when I did do some series solid, I could work even faster. Here's the clay, here's the shoulders, and you're just working from the outside. Try them both and see what fits your personality. Depends on what kind of style, what kind of work feeds you. Honestly, my message is work with clay in a way that is nourishing you and that feeds your soul and makes you excited and gives you inspiration and wants you to play with it more. Like I said before, that's where I have found the magic, because it's like puts me in the zone. I feel totally present. I feel alive. I'm like pushing the clay, and I'm also changing it. There's this interaction that's happening between the two of us. And I'm sure you all know about this, so I'm sort of preaching to the choir.
Well, I mean, I know some people, they might feel like they're getting stuck in a rut, or they may have people who are commissioning them to make things that they've made before. Like, how do you navigate that world? Like
yeah, okay, so
like the gallery wanting you to make something, but you're over it.
Yeah.
That's my life right now.
Yeah, that's a bit frustrating. But, if we need to make money, then there's that. So when people ask me for a one-off commission, I say, sorry, I don't do commissions anymore. I'm like, sorry. But if a gallery says, can you, so right now I have a gallery wanting me to do a dozen talisman pieces. And I thought, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm into that. I can do that. But then I made one and I'm like, oh my God, I have to make 11 more. And, but you know, there's like two sides of that coin. I can still morph it. I can still play. I can still say talisman and interpret that in some way that really feeds me. You know, like honestly, I take everything kind of personally. Like I love lemurs. Okay, what is my next cool talisman going to be? Is a lemur, you know? And then, so I said, mine is going to be a lemur. And she said, no, we live near the ocean. Can it be turtles and herons and you know, fish? And I was like, okay. So yeah, it's like back and forth working with people's ideas of what they want. But I won't do something to match a couch. You know, one person bought a big piece, doesn't match my couch. I'm like, oh my God, that's so classic. And it was kind of funny. I said, oh, sure, I'll take it back. So, you know, if you're doing art as a career and a profession, you know, there's certain things that I work with, but I always try to make it fun. If, you know, so yeah. How do you do it, Katie?
I just keep changing what I do and I don't care. I have to care about what I'm doing. I can't go back in time and make work I made in the past. I'm over it. Mm-hmm. You know, I have to keep going forward, you know, and I think we all need to do that. We all need to figure out, you know, we know what the essence of what we are, you know, what we like to make. But you don't want to just get stuck, you know, doing that same thing. You've got to figure out what the next thing is.
Right. Yeah. All right. Here's my egg oval, flat on one side, round on the other side. Okay. So basically, I'm gonna see if I can do this for y'all. So this is a face. I'm gonna say, you know, halfway down. I'm sure this is all common knowledge for everybody. Is where the eyes go. So, you know, with this size of a thing, I'll just make my eye sockets and push it up a little bit. You know, basically, remember what I said, volume and bone structure. Volume and bone structure. So if that is my eye socket, and then this is my eyebrow, that's a bone up there. And then I'm going to pinch in the clay. Sometimes I pinch it in, sometimes I add clay from the back. Let's do that. Here is a nose. Can y'all see? Okay, so I would suggest making, you know, 20 faces. Look in the mirror. You have a face, look at your face, and just look from the side, look from the front, look at somebody in your house, their face. And then you will start just really noticing all the details. Okay, so then so basically, you know, the eyes are supposedly halfway down your whole face. Then the bottom of the nose would be half again. And then the middle of the lips would be half of that. But you can see mine from the side, there's no chin. So I usually have to add a chin here. So I'm just gonna add that jaw, that bone structure there. I mean, you could even like take the same ball of clay, wet it and make another, you know, smush it and make more faces. But it'd be kind of cool to just make 20 faces and have them, you know, you can see your progression.
It makes me think of Anthony Gormley. He did that whole, I don't know, thousands of faces. Did you know his work?
No, tell me.
Oh, Anthony Gormley. Yeah. He'll go to different cities and he'll have people from the cities, everyone make one to represent the population of the city. And then he'll show them all together in like a warehouse, and there'll be like hundreds of thousands of them. And they all look like these little heads sticking
Is it a
out.
whole head or a mask or just
Mostly just it's mostly really primitive, like just the eyes, the nose, and the mouth, but just to represent each person in the population of that city.
that's cool.
Yeah, you
I'll
should
look
check
them
it out. Yeah.
Okay, so now from the side, you see I have my forehead, nose, and there's a bit of a chin there. You know, it depends on, it's funny because I usually make one with this kind of not a very big chin because I don't really have a big chin. So, I mean, when you look in the mirror, you'll see. Okay, so now, here, my favorite tool. It's my favorite tool. It is called Ket. What's that? What's the tool's name? K-E-T-T. It's worn off. Do you know, Katie?
I don't know.
Anyway, this is a very cool tool. It's called Kemper. Okay.
Oh, Kemper, yeah.
Kemper, this is a wood and wire tool. And the one I love is number 26, I believe. There's a 24 and a 26, but it's perfect, you know, for detail work that you can't really get with a lot of other tools. Okay, so I just put my lips here. I just added a little ball of worm of clay. Okay, so I'm going to sort of just play with this. I'm going to make the line of the lips. And I basically am smoothing all of that in place. Can y'all see that? And
I think lips are really hard. I think people have a tendency to, you know, like you're kind of sticking them on, but can you talk about like the profile of the lip? Because I think that that's the true, there you go. Yeah. Like showing the profile of it.
okay, the profile, you know, it still needs work, but you've got this, actually, I think I'd need more chin. And that'll help show the profile. Okay. So this tool is so cool because you can roll it up. Lips are round and poofy, you know, how they are. There's actually, okay, that's one way you can see. Can you see the side from the side? Okay, another way, I think Deborah Fritz does it this way, where she makes this huge long nose thing. She sits flat, and then she comes in and she does this big snoz thing. The reason I'm showing it is because it's so funny. So this is how she makes. I mean, it's a really great too, because then you won't forget the volume of the muscles that are around here. Most people, when they start out making faces, are flat. They make a flat, like a mask. This way, you can't help but have the volume of the face here. So then you just, you know, kind of give yourself this part of the nose here. I'm sure Deborah wouldn't mind me sharing this. So then, see, you have this whole area that's this muscle thing around here. And then from there, you know, you can still, you know, you give yourself your lip mark. Okay, I've learned that the one really, really important thing about lips is the corners of the lips. The corners of the lips can give you all different kinds of emotions, feelings. Okay, so now I'm looking here. They're kind of poofing out a little bit. So I'm gonna, what am I gonna do? I mean, it depends on, you know, there's a million different kinds of faces you could do. I just find it's really fun when you practice your 20 faces, just, you know, do a man, do a woman, do someone from different countries, do really, you know, exaggerated, you know, every time I touch it, it changes the mouth. You see what I'm doing? But honestly, pay close attention to the corners of the mouth because that's where a lot is happening. Okay, so now I'm kind of, I'm okay with leaving the lips kind of like, I mean, you want me to change them? You want me to do some different things? Well, for now, let's go to the eyeballs. So now we have, okay, so now I'm just going to do an almond shape. Now, often when people start making eyes, they make them too big here and they're kind of like bug-eyed. So that's a little bit big. So I'm going to take some of that clay out. Now that seems to be better. You can see from the side that it's still behind the eyebrow, and it's it's a good space there. Let's see what we can do here. Now this is looking like a Madagascar man. Maybe he needs a lemur. And also, now that I have this hole in the back, I can give him, think bone structure. If you look at a face, you can look at your own. This is the farthest outmost place on most people. This bone that sort of connects with the jaw, kind of in front of the ear. And then, then there's this whole bone structure. If you look at a skull, there's then this cheekbone, then it goes in there, but it comes out here. And then there's the jawline, and then this is bone under here, but it's mostly covered with muscle. That's what gives that the fullness. So you're looking for volume, fullness, and bone structure. So this tool, my favorite tool, I'm just smoothing with a light touch to fit this in place. I already know that feels kind of like the right place. And I kind of want to push that out a little. Okay, so if you look at a face, I mean, it's not, it's not flat. So you're gonna, basically the nose is out and then it goes back like that. I mean, it looks kind of flat when you look at it from the front, but the volume goes back like that. So I'm gonna sort of help that along, but I don't want to lose my cheekbone.
So we have a student here who's making a series of faces, and it's interesting. It seems like working solid but not solid is helpful because you can work from the back and the front.
Yes.
Whereas if you were working completely solid, it would be more like working with plasticine, which is traditional figure sculpting material, where you're adding and subtracting, but not working from behind.
Right. I really value being able to get behind, especially when I do my big pieces. I leave the head open so I can stick my hand in there. Because pushing out this and this, often when you spend all this detail time on the lips or the eyes, you lose your structure, the bone structure. So I would say that is a really good idea, working from the inside and the outside. So here I just used this tool and made my little eyebrow. The thing about this part of the eye is think volume. A minute ago it was just flat here. So this tool will roll it up so that it's round. You want to think roundy round. Same with the lips, kind of roundy round. And I could just do, I'm going to show you another tool. Okay, so see this part of the eye?
Can you hold it up closer to the screen? Oh, yeah.
So I'm actually going to add just a little bit of clay right here because, you know, I'm looking at my eyes and it's kind of sagging right there. I mean, if we looked at Katie's eyes, she wouldn't have this. It's just, you know, a matter of really looking and paying attention to the details. And it's just fun to sort of get lost in those and trying to make your way that way. You know, you can give an eyebrow. And actually, I'm going to try to push those lips back a little bit. And the nose, you know, some people have like a ball on the end of their nose. Some have hooked noses. You know, there's all different ways to play with expression. And honestly, I think that the best thing to do is to just, I'm just going to see if I can change this a little bit.
Have you taken any formal figure sculpting classes?
Yeah, when I was in art school, mostly it was figure drawing. But then when I got into doing bronzes, I actually studied with an Italian sculptor. And he, you know, basically taught like the basics, you know, like for centuries, how they taught. I feel really glad that I had that education. But, you know, that was after my head injury, after I had already sort of like started making faces and kind of knew, but I think it really helped. I think it's really, really valuable to study. And
just so you guys know, we are going to be offering a figure sculpting class in the spring. And it's taught by Yenny, who's our figure drawing teacher. So he teaches in a really classical way, and he would sculpt the figure solid. He wouldn't use plasticine clay. He's still going to use regular clay, but it might be, if you're interested in, you know, really taking a class on the figure, that'll be offered in the spring.
I highly recommend it. I know Yenny and I studied with Valentine years ago together. So I recommend it. I think it's super fun. And to do it in a group and you have a model, and he's really good at pointing out things, and he's really encouraging too. So I would recommend it. So, you know, you could, you know, add different age. You could do all kinds of closed eye, open eye. Okay, how about an ear? You want to see an ear? Well, you know, at this point, I'm thinking, what do I want to do with this face? So just for fun, I am going to.
Marty just said that she took the class with Yenny, I guess last year, and it really helped with the proportions of the face.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it's classical stuff. It's good. It's good stuff. Okay, so can you even see what I'm doing?
Can you lower it? Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is kind of a fun, hello people, hello animals. I just want to see, you know, if this wants to be a man or a woman. It's kind of looking male at the moment, but let's just see what happens when so basically what I'm just doing is I want to play until, you know, to keep myself interested. Oops.
I think for me, what I'm thinking is how would you attach that to a neck or a torso? Since it's hollow in the back, like, would you attach it to the front of a neck?
Yes, you could attach to the front of the neck, or I would add the back of the head. And then sometimes when especially on a bigger piece, I have a really tall, skinny neck. Just a really tall, skinny neck. And then this has a hole right here. And I just set it down on the neck so that you can then turn it. The face can be looking different directions.
And then you attach it once you figure out where you want it to go.
Sometimes I don't attach it.
Oh,
I just have it loose on there, and then it's movable. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, kinetic. But sometimes I don't do that, and I just go, you know, make the face and attach it, like you said, right onto the front of the neck, and then just add my slab clay pieces up, you know, as I go. Let me get some wet.
so it's 12 o'clock, and I'm just wondering, we still have a half an hour. If anyone in the chat or in the audience has questions or anything that you would like Carolyn to demo, just because we have 30 minutes left, so we just want to make sure we're covering our bases.
Okay, just for fun, I just put a bunch of stuff on here. Yeah, Katie, let me know if people want specific, you know, things answered. Yeah, I would, you know, this is kind of cool. I might just keep this and finish the eye and, you know.
Put him on the elephant. Yes.
Why not?
I have a question from Marilyn about your slab. She asked, how do you prepare your slabs? Are they hand rolled, slab rolled? How long are they been setting up?
Okay, so I made these slabs this morning, and so they've just been sort of laying out. They're getting a little stiff, so I'm gonna have to go around and spray them. Normally, yeah, I will make a bunch of slabs and then do this kind of thing. And, you know, especially if I have a big piece I'm working on, I'd want the slabs to be firming up. And sometimes I make just a ton because it's, you know, fun to just have a whole bunch right there. And then I'll just have, you know, lots of animal possibilities.
Are you hand throwing them, rolling them, or using the slab roller?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, slab roller. I used to hand roll them, do them on the floor. It made so much dust, and I don't like that. So, I mean, I have to.
Do you hyper? I mean, I'm always like really vigilant with my students about compressing both sides of their slabs. Is that important to you or no?
Sorry. I mean, when I feel like when I run it through the slab roller, you know, it goes through the slab roller, and that's pretty compressed. And also, like you've seen me, I'm kind of, you know, doing stuff. It's compressing as I go. So I haven't found any problems with it, you know. But it depends on what you're making, and if it's thin, if it's thinner, you know, it depends on a lot of things. So you're the teacher. I'm sure you're right.
Well, and you have magical clay too, so.
That's true. I know, I can make this clay do pretty much anything. I'm so impressed with it, but I kind of like that. What do I want to say else if there aren't too many questions?
B, who is my resident figure sculptor in the room, says, thank you so much for showing how you did the face. It really helps her figure out how she's going to do her faces.
Awesome. I'm so glad that was helpful. I honestly, if anybody wants to start making faces, if you're not doing it already, make 20. Look at yourself in the mirror. Look at Katie. That'll be a good face. And, you know, play with different expressions, eyes open, eyes shut, mouth, you know, sad, happy, whatever. It'll just be delightful, I think. You know, there may be times when you're stuck and feel like, oh God, I hate this. I mean, I go through that too, but then I've learned to just keep going. You know, show up is like my mantra, showing up. And I do tricks and techniques for myself to make it easier. Like I said, to just, you know, have something ready for me in the morning when I come in. I just have to finish it. I don't have to like agonize or think or do anything like that. And then when I leave, you know, leave something to be done. And I don't think I'm any different than anybody. I just feel like creativity is my way. And I know that all of you in this class are the same way, or otherwise you wouldn't be here. And you all probably know about how magical clay is. So, you know, find what captivates you and just lean in on it. You know, whether it's non-representational, whether it's figurative, that's just what turns me on. Because that started, you know, I started when I was really young making animals, and it was like I delved more deeply into looking at them and having them, and you know, all kind. And I seem to be like an animal magnet, or I see animals. And I went up to the mountains for the first time all summer, walking to a moose. I swear. And then all these birds were landing on me, and I was like so happy. So, you know, that's what turns me on. Find out what turns you on. Flowers, gardening, you know, experimenting with cooking, you know, children. Because I feel like creativity for me and for the people that I seem to talk to or attract is about feeling alive, coming alive. That's some quote. What the world needs now is people who have come alive, who are alive. Something that really awakens something in you is where I would say I encourage you to follow. It's been a lifesaver for me, honestly. I don't know. I think I would not be where I am now without the healing power of clay. Let it do that for you. Clay is amazing, but also there's all kinds of other materials. Maybe you're more attracted to paper or video or whatever. Just follow those urges. Follow what makes you come alive.
Thank you, Carolyn. I have a question from Jane.
Mm-hmm.
On the whiteboard there that seems to be a statement to support her.
There's a statement behind you on your whiteboard that we can kind of see, and we're wondering if you could tell us what it says.
Celebrate your inner goddess. The best vitamin to be happy, the best vitamin to be a happy person is B1. Did you get that? Okay, this is
be a happy person.
Yeah, B1. Yeah, B1. Be a happy person. This is a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh, who is like a Buddhist meditator monk person. He said, "Happiness is here and now. I have dropped my worries. Nowhere to go, nothing to do. I don't need to hurry." Actually, this is stuck on my whiteboard from years ago when my daughter and I taught a creativity workshop, and we called it Celebrate Your Inner Goddess. And we did all kinds of clay projects, and we made our own inner goddess, and we made our inner healer, and we talked a lot about healing. So, and I can't get it off. So it's up there.
You're not supposed to get it off.
Apparently not.
This has been so wonderful. Any other comments or questions for Carolyn?
Let me just show you this silly thing over here that I'm, this is porcelain heads. I don't know what I was thinking, but it came from a dream. There was two people and their heads were sort of together. Anyway, it's kind of goofy, but we'll see. It's porcelain paper clay. We'll see how I fire that.
Do you buy the porcelain paper clay, or do you make it yourself?
Well, that particular one I bought. My friend Lois Edgar, who's a potter in the Potters Guild, and I went in and bought, I don't know how many pounds of something from Aardvark, I think, paper clay, paper porcelain. I think it was Aardvark. And, you know, I won't do this thing again. I got cracks, and it doesn't work with the way I work. I think you have to really treat it more like porcelain and really, you know, it was just where I connected it, you know. I mean, it doesn't bother me, but I won't use that again. But it's great for making huge bowls. So I made these really big inside of a log bowls, you know, and then painted Moroccan African designs all inside of them and salt fired them. And now I'm going to put gold luster on there. And I'm going to try the platinum luster. I just also want to show you all. This is a little bit embarrassing, but so I collect all kinds of stuff that either inspire me or those, I don't know if you can see those sort of doors are from, I got in Morocco. If you open the door, it's a mirror, and I'm going to make little houses for them so that you open the front door and you'll see all this whole little scene in there. So I collect all these things that I use with mixed media. This is my slab roller. This is another shelf of stuff. And then I have my books and my molds over there, and I have all those on the wall. So anyway, I love my studio. It's like my safe space, and it's very quiet, and I can open that garage door, and maybe I will because it stopped being windy. And yeah, that's all I got.
Well, thank you so much, Carolyn. It's been such an honor to have you present for us at ACC, and you guys will be posting the recording of this. So if you wanted to go back and rewatch anything, and please reach out to Carolyn, you know, if you think of something after the fact. I think your email is on your website. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if they're interested in taking a class with you, do you want to talk about any of the classes that you're going to be offering?
Yeah, another thing is if you go to my website and sign up with your email, which I would then put you on my mailing list. I don't send out anything but maybe twice a year, but you'll get a free first 5 prompts on my ebook that's called Creativity Heals. And that might be kind of fun for you. I teach right now. I normally this time of year I would be in Morocco, in the desert, in the Sahara Desert, making clay with a village that has been doing it for 1,000 years, digging the clay out of the dirt, ground, digging the chemicals in the side of the mountain, making this amazing green glaze that we used on our work. And then spending a couple days glamping in this desert and then coming back to Marrakesh. Amazing trip. Got canceled this year, but we're doing it again in November next year. Also Latvia and Mexico and possibly Hungary next year. I don't know. This is COVID, who knows?
So these are all trips that you take your students on, or you go? Oh, okay.
Yeah, last year I had 12 people on the desert one. Yeah, so who knows with what's going on in the world when that will resume as it was, but I'm hoping it will be next year. Also, I have online classes I just started this summer, which are mostly process. We do work with clay, but we do collage and we do writing exercises, and it's about enjoying a safe space with creative people in a community. Super amazing and inspiring and fun to see what people are coming up with when we gather as a creative group. Amazing. So yeah, I encourage you to reach out if you have any questions or want to ask questions about the classes. My email is on my website, or Katie has it. And I just hope you all really experience and delve deep into this creative thing, because it's amazing. What a life we get to live, right?
Thank you so much, Carolyn, for sharing your story. Everyone says thank you so much. And Marty just wrote, "You've been an icon for me for 20 years.
Oh, that's so awesome. I'm so happy. I'm so glad I decided to come back.
Are we going to see any of your work anywhere at some point? Maybe when COVID is over? Are you planning any exhibitions?
Well, I have an exhibition planned for the dairy in Boulder, but they are closing, I think. So who knows?
Like closing forever?
Well, they said closing for the rest. Well, they closed their art thing for it's been now 6 months. I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But we shall see.
Yeah. Well, I definitely encourage everyone when you can to see Carolyn's work in person because there's nothing like seeing ceramics in person. So, well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Katie, for thinking of me. I so enjoy sharing all what I do, so I appreciate it.
All right, I'm going to end the meeting.
Okay, awesome. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Bye.